Hi there, welcome to Help Solve the Case. My name's Christine, and we are continuing our coverage of the Carmelo Anthony trial, which right now we are in jury watch. We are waiting for the decision. The defense has rested and we are waiting. And so I am going to go through and recap the last couple of days up until this point, and then we can talk about it. I want to hear what you think, what you feel based on what was presented. And I would appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach at least 1,000 subscribers, and that you would come and join me here for this case and all the other cases that we're doing so I can help more people, including entertaining you. So thank you for being here. So we're following from ABC News here, Channel 8 in Texas. We got to start at the bottom here because it is not live, okay? So we have to go and take the recap here. So we are getting information here from Jobin Paniker from WFAA. That is the station, okay? And this was from Friday. So the prosecution was still working on their case, and they put on the stand Neil Adams, who's a firefighter and paramedic with the Frisco Fire Department. He responded to a call of a stabbing at Kukendall, that is the stadium, and he talked about what happened. It was drizzling. Remember, we talked about rain, if you haven't seen the first video, about how that might affect eyewitness testimony. And he found Metcalf. There was no respiration, means he wasn't breathing. He didn't have a pulse. And they put him inside the ambulance, but he did not make it. And that is a very, very sad thing to go through, even for paramedics and police officers that go through this all the time. The whole thing is a sad situation. All right. They then say the state put on Eduardo Cortez, a Frisco PD school resource officer and former U.S. Marine. He was assigned to Staley Middle School just south of Kukendall Stadium when he got a stabbing call, end quote, over the radio. He ran over there and he saw Karmelo Anthony on the other side of a fence. And he says they walked along the fence together. He said Anthony was cooperative. He told jurors he handcuffed Anthony and radioed, quote, "I have the alleged suspect detained," end quote. So he was the school resource officer. So he's the one that apparently put him under arrest. And if you remember, not only do we have our first trial recap video, but we also have the original police report video of what happened at the time. So that should be, I don't remember his name, but that should be Cortez, okay? Cortez testified that Anthony then said, quote, "I am not alleged, I did it," end quote. And he says, and this is very important about being prompted because there can be custody and Miranda implications here, quote, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to," end quote. And that is Cortez repeating what Anthony said. And we also have that from the coach, right? So this is repeated things that Anthony said about getting his hands put on him. And if you looked at the prior video, we looked at the Constitution, the statute, the charge of assault in Texas that talks about somebody unlawfully touching somebody else. And that being provoking, okay? And we talked about the prosecution saying that Metcalf did push Anthony, maybe more than one time, okay? Because we heard testimony, I don't remember who it was, about a grab and a push and a shove, okay? So the reporter talks about the surveillance camera of the arrest, Cortez walking down a hill, running around the stadium, I guess as he's trying to get over there. Anthony was pointed out, and he said, Cortez says it's no secret weapons are not allowed at the stadium. Cortez agrees with prosecutor Bill Werski when asked if bringing in a weapon, quote, is unprecedented and never accounted, end quote. I find that very hard to believe. I'm not calling them liars, but there's a difference between finding it and knowing about it and it happening. And I'm just saying that if you think about kids stealing money, change from their parents, kids stealing cookies out of the cookie jar, and a whole host of other crimes. And I'm talking about it as a cop. If you haven't met me, you don't know who I am. I'm a retired police officer, police detective, and sergeant. I'm a law enforcement expert. Like, it happens all the time. Think about all the crimes that happen that go unprosecuted. Okay, so yeah, it's not encountered. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I'm not on one side or the other. I'm just pointing out what pops out to me. They get shown, jurors in the audience get shown the body camera video, 4-minute clip, so got them pretty quick. And they walk along the fence. He's being handcuffed. It sounds like Anthony was compliant and brings him to the police car. As Anthony is being walked to the car, the video depicts him crying and saying, quote, "He put his hands on me," end quote. About 30 seconds later, Anthony is heard answering questions about his name and school and is not sobbing. On another officer's body camera video, Anthony is heard on video saying, quote, "I am not alleged, period, I did it," end quote. I lost my place here. Sorry, folks. Okay. Okay. All right, here we are. Sorry, guys. Okay. Again, let's see. The next witness is Jacob Schultz, another Frisco PD school resource officer. The rain the day of the stabbing was, quote, "heavy to intermittent," end quote. He helped secure the crime scene, collect evidence at the stadium that day. Quote, "We were looking for a knife," end quote, he told jurors. He said his school administrator spotted the knife, which was 3 to 4 rows from the crime tape. He also found Anthony's blue Centennial High School backpack. Jurors were shown pictures of the tent and the backpack 8 to 9 rows up. They were then shown a picture of what's described as a, quote, "folding knife," end quote. Got a little drawing here. It is shown sitting on the bleachers, partially open. It has a black blade and gray handle. Prosecutor Bill Werski pulled the knife out of an evidence box and removed the backpack from an evidence bag. Both are entered into evidence. Werski gives Schultz what's described as an exact replica of the knife so he can demonstrate to the jury how the knife's action works. The blade, which has a thumb stud, opens quickly. The knife has a liner lock mechanism. So I don't know. It sounds like it's not when you have to pry open. It sounds like, I don't want to say switchblade or something like that, but it sounds like something you can open quickly. Also, the prosecution played the body cam video of Officer Jacob Schultz, shows attempts to save Austin Metcalf's life. In the background, you can hear kids crying. The video shows Joshua Redman, Liberty High School football coach who testified yesterday, performing chest compressions. Metcalf's mother is crying. Father has his head down. They're not watching the video. Hear kids crying in the background while they're trying to resuscitate him, searching the scene for the knife and backpack. On the video, someone yells, quote, "I found it," end quote, in reference to the knife. When the video ends, the courtroom is silent. Reporter Rebecca Lopez says she saw a juror crying. All right. We also have Stephanie Martin, a criminalist with Frisco police, takes the stand. She was called out to the crime scene. She collected the pocket knife, clothing, and backpack. She testified the blade is 3.5 inches long. Inside the backpack were snacks, a hair pick, a phone cord, keys, and a cross necklace. Jurors are shown pictures of Anthony's gray sweatshirt with a small red stain. On cross-examination, defense attorney Mike Howard notes his client also had 3 pieces of paper with word finder puzzles, a vocabulary assignment, Cheez-Its, and car keys. On cross-examination, defense attorney Mike Howard confirms with Officer Schultz that the knife is a multi-tool. Okay, so it's not just a knife. It's a, I don't know what, how big of a, forget what those things are called, Swiss Army knife maybe, that it's a multi-tool. Okay. The state calls its first young witness. The witness, 17, was a track athlete. He says, quote, "It was pouring down rain," end quote, at first, he told jurors, and that's why the boys' team returned to the tent. He saw Anthony and another memorial student, quote, "dap up," end quote, and greet each other. The witness said he told Anthony to leave the tent. Okay, so we don't know who it is. Right here it says the judge asked that none of them be identified. So, is it one of the brothers? Right? We don't know how many people told Anthony to leave. He also remembers Austin Metcalf telling Anthony to leave. The witness heard Anthony say, quote, "touch me and find out," end quote. The witness testified Anthony was asked to leave the tent about 15 times. So that is a lot of times. He said no one tried to, quote, "mob up on him," end quote, whatever that is. The witness said there was, quote, "minor pushing," end quote, for a couple of minutes. Minor, like a couple of minutes is a long time. A couple is 2. So click off 2 minutes. I'm not going to do it here, but let's just do this. That's about 10 seconds right there. And you've got 120 seconds in 2 minutes. That's a long time for some shoving and pushing to be going on, right? He told, again, semantics, words, what the words are saying. He told jurors that Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony were both, quote, "angry," end quote, and, quote, "aggressive," end quote, that both of them were. The witness said it didn't seem like Metcalf wanted to fight. Anthony had his hand in a backpack in his lap. The witness told jurors he thought that was a, quote, "bluff," end quote, that Anthony had something in the backpack. At some point, the witness said, quote, "Austin leans in to push him and Karmelo stabs him," end quote. The witness asked to describe the push, said it was not a light shove or a hard shove, quote, "it was in between," end quote. The witness said Hunter Metcalf was at the bottom of the tent and not really involved, he said, adding that not many people were involved in the altercation. The witness said Anthony stabbed Metcalf, who fell onto the bleachers on his back. He said Metcalf lifted up his own shirt and said, quote, "oh my God," end quote. Horrible. The witness said Anthony was outside the tent during altercation. Prosecutor Bill Worski asked the witness, quote, "did Austin deserve to get stabbed?" end quote. Answer, quote, "no, sir," end quote. Was Austin Metcalf the, quote, "aggressor," end quote. Answer, quote, "no, sir," end quote. On cross-examination, defense attorney Toby Shook questioned the witness if Anthony and a friend were outside the Memorial High School tent, quote, "what is wrong with that?" end quote. The witness said, because of the proximity to the tent, that they were near the tent. What were they, trespassing in the tent? The witness said Anthony was getting upset after he was told to leave. He said the back and forth only lasted 2 minutes, which is a long time, and reiterated that both Anthony and Metcalf were aggressive. The witness said when Anthony had his hand in his backpack and said, quote, "touch me and find out," end quote, that it was a, quote, "threat," end quote. And again, not being on either side, but if somebody has their hand hidden, I'm speaking as a cop, what do we first say? Get your hands out of your pockets. Put your hands where I can see them. Because the threat, the hiddenness is the threat. Because you don't know what is in there. So if Austin felt there was a threat, why didn't he back off? Why did he shove? I don't know. I'm just asking. Okay? I mean, if someone said, "touch me and I'm going to shoot you," would you touch them? I don't know. Again, I'm trying to understand what happened here, the mental thoughts of the people that are involved. The witness recalled Austin Metcalf telling Karmelo Anthony, quote, "We're in Frisco. You don't have anything in there," end quote. What do you make of that? I know what I make of that. What do you make of that? The witness said Metcalf pushed Anthony with 2 hands by his shoulders. Quote, "I did not see an object. I saw a motion," end quote. And apparently Anthony is sitting down. Okay. The witness said, Shook asked the witness to recreate the stabbing. A chair is pushed to the middle of the courtroom. The witness stands in for Metcalf for the demonstration. Shook, playing Anthony, is sitting in a chair in the courtroom. The witness, from a standing position, leans in to push Shook, who is seated. The witness tells jurors that while Metcalf is leaning into Anthony during the push is when the stabbing happens. So did he stab him to get him off of him? Did he think that he was shoving him down into the bleachers and he was going to pummel him? Or, you know how I don't know, I didn't see the bleachers, but you know how they go up and then they go down and then they go up and down. And did he think he was going to try to throw him off or shove him down in the bleachers? We don't know. Okay. All right. We've got a 16-year-old witness. The witness said Anthony, quote, "walked up and sat in our tent," end quote, and, quote, "I was questioning, why is he at our tent," end quote. Anthony said a few words to his friend, then described the altercation and stabbing. The witness said, that doesn't make sense. The witness said Metcalf and Anthony were, quote, "frustrated," end quote, and then it, quote, "escalated," end quote. The witness said Metcalf lightly pushed or, quote, "nudged," end quote, Anthony. That differs from the last witness who said it was a 2-handed push. The witness said Hunter Metcalf was right next to his brother Austin, which is contrary to what other witness testimony said, that Hunter was closer to the bottom of the tent and is not part of this scene, which is true. The witness said Anthony walked, then jogged, then ran after the stabbing. Quote, "He was calm," end quote, the witness said, but also, quote, "he was trying to get away," end quote. The witness said he helped point him out to the heritage coaches. On cross-examination by Toby Shook, the witness said Anthony was 1 row above Austin Metcalf and that Anthony was sitting when he was pushed and that Anthony was not knocked off balance. The 5th young witness of the day, oh, no, I got one more, sorry. The state's next witness is a 17-year-old who said his sister also witnessed the stabbing. He told jurors Hunter Metcalf was several bleacher steps behind his brother Austin Metcalf. Each young witness has not been very consistent as to where everyone was located at the tent. The witness said Austin Metcalf gave Anthony a 1-handed push. So again, I always talk about eyewitness testimony and consistency, like the number of bullets and what happened. So we don't have the video. We don't have a clear description amongst the kids, and they were right there. We don't have a clear description of anything about exactly what happened, how many pushes, how many shoves, who did what. Everybody has something different, where Metcalf's brother was, where, whatever was said, everybody's saying different things were said. So we just don't know. We don't know what the jury is going to think. The 5th young witness of the day went to Liberty High School and heard the commotion in the memorial tent. The witness recalled hearing Karmelo Anthony say, quote, "If you want me to move, you're going to have to move me," end quote. The witness did not see Anthony. Prosecutor Bill Worski asked the witness, who is a Black woman, if this was about race, and she said it is not. In an earlier statement to authorities, the witness said Anthony said, quote, "He wanted to beat Austin Metcalf in a race," end quote. I don't know what that came in. The witness told jurors she may not have heard that and it may have been more of a rumor. So there was already beef? I don't know. What do you think? The 6th young witness took the stand for the prosecution. He too was at the track meet in 2025 and recalled that Anthony said, quote, "Touch me and see what happens," end quote. The witness said he saw Anthony with his hand in his backpack. The witness said he felt Anthony might be holding something because he saw the veins on Anthony's hand while in the backpack. The witness said Metcalf pushed Anthony with 2 hands, but called it a touch. Quote, end quote, quote, end quote. He said it is something similar to a, quote, lineman move, end quote. Well, I know what happens in football. What happens in football? Is it a touch? Or is it a pushing them back? Blocking? On cross-examination, defense attorney Mike Howard is trying to ascertain where everyone is under the tent, and as witnesses have not been consistent. Possibly to say, with their differing descriptions, so first of all, we have their differing descriptions, but could they be in a position to see what they say they saw? Howard also asked the witness about Metcalf's push of Anthony. The witness characterized it as a grab. Okay, so here's now a grab. Okay, so the witness says, pushed it 2 hands, but a touch, but then there's a grab. So the witness seems to not even be able to keep it straight on the testimony. And then they adjourned court. Okay. So we're going to go to day 5. Okay. All right, there's a sketch apparently about the judge that some folks are scared of, some jurors are afraid of. Okay, prosecutors have called a 7th young witness. Judge Rose has asked none of the young witnesses be identified publicly. The witness is from Memorial High School, was at the track meet. The witness told jurors he knows not to bring weapons to a track meet. He was under the tent at the time of the incident. He testified that it, quote, threw me off, end quote, to see Karmelo Anthony in the memorial tent. Referencing a demonstrative exhibit showing the tent in relation to the bleachers, he said that Anthony arrived at the top right side of the tent. The witness said Austin Metcalf was asking Karmelo Anthony to leave the tent and that Anthony was provoking Metcalf. How often do you use the word provoking in your daily life as a young student? Just saying, we're playing chess here, okay? The witness, sorry. The witness, said Austin Metcalf was asking Karmelo Anthony to leave the tent and that it was provoking Metcalf. The witness said Austin Metcalf put his hands on Anthony's shoulders. At some point, the witness told jurors he heard yelling, quote, he stabbed me, end quote. Quote, you don't expect someone to get stabbed at a track meet, end quote, the witness told jurors. The witness said he and another girl ran from the scene, that he was, quote, scared, end quote, worried that Anthony may stab someone else. He said Hunter Metcalf was sitting right next to his twin brother, Austin Metcalf. He said Hunter went to help his brother Austin after he fell back from being stabbed. Prosecutor Bill Werski asked the young man if he thought the stabbing was self-defense. No, the witness replied. Why? Quote, it's lethal force against non-lethal force, end quote. Okay, so this is a young witness. I don't mean to laugh here, but again, the seriousness of the case, we're talking about legalese, right? And I'm giving you the legal play-by-play, the chess game, the state's show versus the defense's show. Cases are not necessarily about the evidence and the guilt and the innocence. It's about the process and what they put on and how they do it and who the jury or the judge believes. It is a chess game. Now, I want to tell you here, a young witness, who uses lethal force against non-lethal force. I know those words because I got trained in them. Who uses those words? Was somebody coached? On cross-examination, defense lawyer Toby Shook, the witness told jurors Anthony and his friend he knew from Memorial High School, who was at the tent, did not say much to each other, quote, maybe 3 words total, end quote. After the incident, students who migrated to a bus to a school bus, passed the phone around, and were looking at Anthony's Instagram page, what the witness told jurors. He said the Metcalf brothers were right next to each other under the tent, which is counter to other witness testimony that they were in different parts of the tent. Last year, in an interview with police, the witness characterized Austin Metcalf putting his hands on Karmelo Anthony as a, quote, warning, end quote. Shook tried to get the witness to say he was, quote, intimidating him, end quote. They wouldn't agree with the characterization. Okay, so that's different. So did he impeach the witness by showing a different part here? Just go okay, it's a warning. Okay. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, courthouse. Okay, the next young witness, the eighth in the trial so far, is 16, a football player from Memorial. The witness said he considers Austin Metcalf to be a, quote, big brother, end quote. He said he, the Metcalf twins, and a couple other athletes are the ones who put up the tent. Quote, we told him, meaning Karmelo Anthony, to leave, end quote, the witness said, including the Metcalf twins and another student. The witness recalled Anthony said, quote, touch me and see what happens, end quote. Every young witness has been consistent that the verbal altercation lasted 4 to 6 minutes. Austin Metcalf, quote, tried to force him, parentheses, Anthony, out, end quote, the witness said. Tried to force him out. Another word, semantics. Get him to leave, force him out. He was forced out of his car at gunpoint. He was forced out of the house. He was forced out of his job. Is that nice or is that a mean word? I'm just saying. Semantics in words. Is the jury going to understand the use of these words? These are words coming out of these witnesses. Force. Okay. After Metcalf, quote, put his hands on him, that's when he gets stabbed, end quote. He characterized it as a, quote, little shove, end quote, by Metcalf. Quote, I thought he was bluffing, end quote. So did he shove him to see if he was bluffing? If you were so in fear or whatever was going on, are you going to entertain a bluff? If you're in the middle of a bank robbery and the bad guy says, get on the ground or I'm going to shoot you, are you going to call that bluff? I'm just saying. After seeing Anthony with his hand in his backpack, the witness said, he told jurors he did not see the stabbing. He called it a, quote, one-on-one confrontation between Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony. Does that make it self-defense? One-on-one. Prosecutor Bill Worski asked each young witness the same few questions at the very end. Was Anthony, quote, provoking, end quote, and, quote, the aggressor, end quote, and, quote, was this self-defense, end quote. The young witness said Anthony, quote, committed murder, end quote. Again, words. What kid is going to walk around saying somebody committed murder? Maybe he did it, whatever. Coaching. My opinion. Toby Shook on cross-examination questioned the witness on where all the kids were in the bleachers. I can't wait to see this transcript. Only a small number of students saw the actual stabbing, jurors are told. Asked about Metcalf's push of Anthony, the witness said it was to, quote, his shoulder area, end quote, with both hands. The next young witness, ninth of the trial, is a 16-year-old from Memorial High School. He was at the track meet that day and testified that he heard Anthony say, quote, I'm a nobody, end quote, when asked by students under the tent who he is and why he's under the memorial tent. The witness told jurors Anthony said, quote, I'm not leaving, fuck y'all, end quote, and, quote, y'all a bunch of pussies, y'all not going to do anything about it, end quote, when he was asked to leave. Excuse the expletive. The witness told jurors Anthony had his backpack on. He takes it off and places it on his own lap, and Anthony puts his hand in the backpack. That's when the stabbing occurs. quote, it took a second to process, end quote, the witness said. He said Austin Metcalf was, quote, calm, end quote. Quote, Austin didn't deserve what happened, end quote, the witness said. Prosecutor said, quote, it was murder what happened, right? Yes, sir. On cross-examination, defense lawyer Toby Shook asked the witness about the conversation Karmelo Anthony had with his friend, who he knew from Memorial, who he saw at the tent. The witness said it was, quote, friendly, end quote. Shook asked the witness why he did not mention the curse words he just testified that Anthony used when he gave his statement to police last year. Would other students have heard this? The young man said that he doesn't recall. Okay, so again, did he impeach him successfully that he said these, I'm not leaving F y'all, cuss words that Anthony said him. He said him now during the trial, but he didn't report him to police, which was closer to the incident. So which one is right? Was he trying to help the trial? The next young witness is a recent graduate from Memorial. This witness is notable because he's the Memorial student that Karmelo Anthony knew and went to greet at the Memorial tent. The witness is also close to the Metcalf twins. That must be awkward. The witness said he knows Anthony because he was the ex-boyfriend of a family friend. He said that he is, quote, not a friend, end quote, of Anthony, and that he does not know him very well. The witness said he did not tell Anthony to leave the tent and did not talk long. The witness said Austin Metcalf asked why Karmelo Anthony was at the Memorial tent. The witness recalled Anthony saying, quote, you're not going to move me, quote, you're a bitch, end quote. The witness told jurors, quote, Austin was defending us, end quote. Regarding the backpack, this witness said Anthony had it, quote, between his legs, end quote. This is the first witness so far to say the bag was not on his lap. The witness said he saw the stabbing and says he did see the stabbing. He said Austin Metcalf gave Anthony a, quote, soft shove, end quote. Is this shove soft? I mean, I'm just asking. And said both Metcalf brothers said they didn't believe Anthony had anything in his backpack. Do you think a canine is going to bite you? I mean, I'm just surprised by these statements. The witness said he saw the stabbing and saw Austin Metcalf fall back. Quote, he starts screaming for help, end quote, the witness says, and begins crying on the witness stand. Prosecutor Bill Worski offers him tissues. The witness wipes his eyes and continues his account in a shaky voice. The witness said that before the stabbing, during the verbal argument, he took out his phone and, quote, thought it was funny, end quote, and pretended to record it. There was no recording, he testified. Really? So he thought that the verbal argument was funny. Was it recorded? So it's funny. He said after the stabbing, he saw Anthony, quote, run, end quote, away from the Memorial tent. The witness testified that he regrets jokingly saying, quote, yeah, end quote, when a friend asked him if he thought Karmelo Anthony might have something in his bag. He said he also regrets pretending to film the altercation in the stands. Yeah. The witness says he does not think the stabbing by Anthony was in self-defense. Prosecutor Worski asked, quote, whose fault was it, end quote. The witness answered, quote, I don't know, end quote. That's an interesting statement. If it's self-defense, it's Austin's fault. If it's Anthony's fault, it's Anthony's fault. But what does the guy say? Whose fault was it? I don't know. That means they're both responsible, in his opinion. So then what happens? Does it wash it out? Does it make it intentional? What happens? Okay. On cross-examination with Toby Shook, the witness says Austin Metcalf was, quote, like a brother, end quote. The witness also said he, quote, was close, end quote, with Anthony's ex-girlfriend. He said they were considered cousins, but not by blood. The witness testified that out of the blue and unprovoked, Anthony said, quote, y'all are ass, end quote, in reference to Memorial's football team. The witness said he was always about 2 spaces away from Anthony. They had, quote, dapped up, end quote, soon after Anthony made that comment about the football team. Defense attorney Toby Shook continues his cross-examination of the same witness. Shook is questioning the witness on how well he really knew Anthony. This morning, the witness said he didn't know Anthony that well. Shook shows a series of photos of the two together. A photo of the witness and Karmelo Anthony at Anthony's ex-girlfriend's mother's 50th birthday party. A photo shows the two of them sitting next to each other smiling. Another photo shows about 15 people before an outside basketball game, including the witness and Anthony. In a 3-week period, they met 3 times, testimony shows. What do you think? Do they know each other? Well, Shook shows the witness and the jury pictures of Anthony and his girlfriend at the time, who was like a cousin to the witness. The pictures are of Halloween, birthday parties, etc. Quote, "Are you still telling this jury you don't know K.A. very well?" End quote, Toby asked the young witness. Answer, quote, "We were cool with each other," end quote. Shook pressed the witness on how well he knew Anthony, whom he had, quote, dapped up, end quote, under that tent the fateful morning before the stabbing. Shook asked the witness why he didn't intervene and mentioned he knew Anthony and that he wasn't a stranger. The witness told jurors he felt like he didn't need to and was talking with other people at the time. The witness said that Austin Metcalf was seated at first. Then the witness said he and Austin Metcalf called each other, quote, "bitch," end quote. Shook asked the witness why he faked taking a video, quote, "I was being dumb," end quote. Shook said that if he had actually been recording, we'd know what actually happened. Shook said Shook and the witness are demonstrating the push in the middle of the courtroom. The witness said he only saw Austin Metcalf push Karmelo Anthony with one hand. Now it's one hand. It was, quote, "it was a small shove," end quote. We don't have a consistent narrative here. The next witness is a 16-year-old linebacker from Memorial. That day he had headphones on and was listening to music. He said he told Karmelo Anthony to get out of the tent. He recalled Anthony saying, quote, "touch me and see what happens," end quote. He stated that statement by Anthony was directed at Austin Metcalf. He said Anthony challenged Metcalf to a fist fight, and Metcalf said, quote, "I'm not going to fight at a track meet," end quote. The witness told jurors he ran after the commotion because he was scared Anthony still had the knife. Coaches were holding Hunter Metcalf back while his brother was bleeding. The state's next witness is Collin County Medical Examiner Dr. Elizabeth Ventura. The Metcalf parents have left the courtroom. God, I don't know if I'd want to see it or not see it. Dr. Ventura, I've been to autopsies. It is hard seeing a person like that, knowing that it was a person. I mean, it's still a deceased person. Not that it's not a person. I don't know how to say what I want to say. But you can picture the life that used to be in that person. And it's very hard. I can't imagine having to, I probably couldn't. If it was a family member or friend. Dr. Ventura did the autopsy on Austin Metcalf. She told the jurors that the stab wound was on the left side of his chest, perforated his sternum and right ventricle. The knife wound was 2 inches deep. Now remember, we heard the blade was 3.5 inches in length. So there was 1.5 inches that did not go in. So was it a full stab or was it just didn't go all the way in, a puncture? As she shows the jurors autopsy photos, they are not shown to the rest of the courtroom. One juror has her hands on her mouth. Another takes a quick glance and looks away. Yeah, it's not a good scene for anybody. The official cause of death is homicide, stab wound to the chest. On cross-examination, defense attorney Toby Shook questions Dr. Ventura on whether she can tell from the wound path whether Metcalf was standing, leaning in, if the defendant was leaning back. And the ME says, quote, "there are multiple possibilities," end quote. On redirect, prosecutor Bill Worski asked about defensive wounds. Dr. Ventura said she did not see defensive knife wounds on Austin Metcalf. All right, the state has rested. They asked for a directed verdict, which means that they feel that there's enough there to, the defense has asked for a directed verdict, meaning that the state has not proved their case. Apparently, the judge says no, and so that they weren't going to give the directed verdict. So the defense calls their first witness, Adam Linwood, a football and track coach at Centennial, where Karmelo was a student. Defense attorney Mike Howard asked the culture of track. Coach Linwood said the sport has, quote, hours of downtime, end quote. Does that lead to a more relaxed atmosphere at track meets? Yes, the coach tells jurors. Maybe meaning that they're going to congregate and chat and hang out with everybody. I'm not sure where he's going with that. Howard asked Coach Linwood about the policy of athletes not being allowed in other teams' tents. The coach told jurors he's unaware of any policy where athletes are not allowed under someone else's tent. He said his athletes have gone to other tents. Centennial's policy is to have a coach at each tent because they're teenagers. Howard is trying to counter testimony from prosecution witness that visiting other teams' tent is generally not allowed. It's the reporter saying that. Howard asked why Karmelo Anthony's football senior year ended early. The coach said that Anthony had a significant shoulder injury early in the season and he wore an arm sling for a while. Howard asked why didn't Centennial have a tent at the track meet. Let me ask about that. Let me say something about this. Was Carmelo Anthony's shoulder still bad that he felt if he got into a fight, he couldn't defend himself because he only had one hand? Remember, we talked about my height difference and weight difference? Just throwing that out there. Chess. State of mind of the person. Okay. He wore an arm sling for a while. Why didn't Centennial have a tent? They didn't have the manpower to put a foot tent on the bus that day, and Centennial took a limited number of kids to the meet. On cross-examination, prosecutor Bill Worski also asked about Centennial's tent. The coach said a second bus was arriving with the tent for later. Worski, quote, do you have any idea why, quote, parentheses, Anthony was wandering around the bleachers, end quote. Coach Linwood, quote, no, sir, end quote. Quote, is there any reason a coach should have a knife, end quote. Answer, quote, no, end quote. Worski picks up the replica knife and asks, quote, this is not a cleat sharpener, right, end quote. Quote, yes, end quote, the coach said. The next witness is an 18-year-old former Centennial student athlete. Defense attorney Mike Howard asked about track culture versus football culture. The witness said there are a lot more people at track meets and you can, quote, walk around, end quote. He said, quote, if I had a friend there, I would hang there, end quote, and that track is a lot more relaxed. He told jurors that he was never told not to go to other tents. He said he's been under the memorial tent before. On cross-examination, the prosecutor asked him if he were to leave another team's tent, would he? Quote, yes, end quote, he replied. Have you ever brought a knife to a meet? No, quote, no, end quote, the young man said. The defense's next witness is a 17-year-old from Memorial High School. He said it was his understanding that one of the Memorial athletes who is friends with Karmelo Anthony called him over to the memorial tent that day. The witness recalled telling investigators that Anthony said to Metcalf, quote, nobody has a problem with me being here but you, end quote. He also told investigators last year in an interview that Metcalf said something to the effect of, quote, I'll beat your ass, end quote, in a moderate tone. So, is that Metcalf telling Anthony he's going to beat his butt? Was that during this incident or was that an earlier incident? The witness told jurors Metcalf went up one row during the argument, which was one row below Anthony. He told jurors that Metcalf tapped Anthony on the shoulder while Anthony is seated with his hand in his backpack. The witness recalled Metcalf reaching out with both hands in a pushing motion. Okay. Court is adjourned. Okay. Today. All right. Defense calls a 17-year-old Centennial High School student. He was on the same football team as Karmelo Anthony. He told jurors that Anthony did not play the whole last season because of a shoulder injury. At the track meet on April 2nd, 2025, he testified Monday that Anthony was in a, quote, normal mood, end quote. The team was all sitting in the bleachers. He said Anthony was there for a jumping event. Under questioning by defense attorney Mike Howard, the witness said there is a lot of downtime at a track meet and that to pass the time, he'd scroll his phone. He said he hasn't gone to another team's tent, but he said he knows it happens. The witness testified that there is a baseball field next to the track meet and they hung out at a dugout for a short time. He said another team's coach said they could not be in the dugout, but they were trying to get out of the rain. They left the dugout after being told to leave. The Centennial High School coach told them to get on the field and get ready to warm up. Quote, there was a big storm, end quote, coming, the witness said. Anthony was with them the whole time in the dugout and out on the field to warm up. The, quote, rain started to pick up again, end quote, he told jurors. He said Anthony then heads to the bleachers and he saw Anthony walking from the left side where Centennial had a tarp to the right of the stadium. He saw him again under the memorial tent in the, quote, top right corner, end quote. The witness said the memorial tent was medium to full but getting crowded. He told jurors that, quote, everything felt completely normal, end quote, at the memorial tent. He was about 40 yards away. He then heard, quote, loud noises, end quote, and it, quote, it caught my attention that something was going on, end quote, which he described as a verbal altercation. The same 17-year-old witness is still on the stand. The witness told jurors, quote, I saw a push, end quote, referring to Austin Metcalf's push of Karmelo Anthony. He continued, quote, I saw the arms go out and make contact with Melo, end quote, referring to Anthony by his nickname. The witness said he did not see the contact but saw the arms in the push. He admits to jurors he does not have any context for what was happening. Quote, it got super loud and it was like, whoa, what happened, end quote. The witness thought it may have been a bee in the tent and that someone may have been stung. He told jurors that he did not see the stabbing. He said Anthony was standing during the push. He said the next thing he remembers, Metcalf lifted up his shirt and said he was stabbed. The witness saw Anthony go into a, quote, light jog, end quote, and recalled he was, quote, moving across the bleachers, end quote. The witness said Anthony was, quote, crying and there was a coach comforting him, end quote, adding that Anthony, quote, was distraught, end quote. The witness said he could hear Anthony crying and overheard him saying, quote, I told him not to touch me, end quote. Defense attorney Mike Howard, do you know if Anthony was justified or not? Do you know if Anthony was provoking? Quote, no, sir, end quote. Is that to the first sentence or do you know this to the second sentence? Don't ask a double question. On cross-examination, prosecutor Bill Worski asked the witness about them being kicked out of the nearby baseball dugout that morning. Quote, if someone asks you to leave, you leave, right? End quote. Quote, yes, sir, end quote. Worski asked the witness questions about where he was standing when the stabbing happened. Quote, have you ever brought a knife to a track event? End quote. Worski asked him, quote, no, sir, end quote. The defense next witness is Frisco PD Detective Bo Riley, Crimes Against Children Unit. Ask him if he found any deleted photos on the phone of an earlier witness. Okay, that's good. The one that said he recorded it. Who testified he pretended to make a video. Riley told jurors he is not sure. Wow, that's weird. Shook asked him if knives with blades under 5.5 inches or pocket knives are against the law to carry. Riley said they are generally not disallowed, but he is not aware if it's against school policy. So there could have been, is he saying there could have been video evidence of this, that pretend video? He doesn't know. How does he not know? The next witness is 17-year-old Frisco high school athlete. He walks in chewing gum. Okay. Mike Howard is questioning him. Quote, track meets are very social, end quote. The witness said, he said kids from other schools would come to the tent. That wasn't unusual. He said, quote, everybody was standing or congregating, end quote, under the memorial tent. He told jurors it looked to him like someone got, quote, pushed or punched, end quote, but does not really know. According to a statement he gave to a detective a year ago, he described it as, quote, a push or a hit, end quote. Okay, that's not a touch, right? Push, again, semantics. Push or hit. It's not touch. The witness says he recalls after the quote kid, end quote, which is Carmelo Anthony, got hit, he saw a quote swing type motion down, end quote. The witness said he recalled hearing someone got stabbed and he ran out of the stadium into the bus. The reporter tells us, in parentheses, we have now heard several different recollections of Carmelo Anthony's actions with the knife that day. One witness testified he used an upward movement, and this witness said it was a downward movement, end quote. The witness said he did not want to come to court today. He said he does not know Anthony and has no personal knowledge of what happened. Okay. The defense has rested its case. 2:30 p.m. Carmelo Anthony did not take the witness stand. Closing arguments are set for tomorrow. The lawyers on both sides will now negotiate on the set of instructions given to jurors as they go into deliberations after closings. If they do not finish their deliberations by the end of the day tomorrow, they will be sequestered at a local hotel. Judge Roach said in court in a moment of levity amid tough testimony, the judge told the jury, quote, pack a bag, ladies, one bag, end quote. The gallery laughed. Okay. What do you think? Again, we don't have anywhere near what, the court transcript. We don't know every word. We don't know what was said. We don't have body language. We don't have any of that. Maybe that will get released after the trial's over. We only have one reporter picking and choosing what they're going to give to us, right? And it's second, third hand. So what do you think? How long do you think they're going to take to deliberate? What's going to happen? We still got closing arguments tomorrow, and then we have the jury deliberating. What do you think? What do you want to see based on the limited amount that we've seen? Or do you want to wait and reserve your opinion? Let me know down below. Again, thank you for being here. I would really appreciate if you could subscribe. I'm trying to get to the 1,000 subscriber limit so I can do more, help more victims, be here more regularly, go over more cases. Hopefully this has been informative for you, giving you my position based on my work, my past work, my current work. And I'd love to know your thoughts. I really, really, really appreciate you being here. This is interesting for me, and I hope it's interesting for you. And as usual, I will see you on the next one.